What's up, DFS players? We have been on an absolute tear on PrizePicks. We're 7 out of our last 8, and most of these have been $500 two-pick power plays. So here we can see another big one. So hopefully we can keep it going today. I have a bunch of MLB player props that I'm going to share with you. But before we kind of do anything, let's recap how PrizePicks works, right? So the way this DFS platform works is extremely fascinating. Essentially, any two player props you select, you're just going to be getting plus 200 odds. Doesn't matter if you take overs or unders, you'll notice that this payout doesn't change, right? 20 to win 60, which means 20 to win 40 in profit, plus your $20 stake back. It doesn't matter what you select. Any two picks is just going to be 20 to win 60 plus 200 odds. So what this essentially means is that you need to be winning a third of your two-pick entries on PrizePicks to break even, and you need to be winning 57.74% of your player props on PrizePicks roughly to break even, right? So they're essentially baking a ton of juice into their market, but they're not varying payouts depending on if you select the over or the under. So if you're a sports bettor as well as a DFS player, you'll notice that most over-unders are minus 110, minus 110, right? So on PrizePicks, they bake in a ton more juice. Minus 137, minus 137 is the implied price for a two-pick entry. Now, it varies slightly for a 3 or 4 pick entry, and this number will also vary slightly depending on if you're playing flex plays or power plays for 3 or 4 pick entries. But regardless, essentially, you're getting roughly minus 135, minus 140 on any PrizePicks player props. So this is shocking because if you think about it, like we can actually just look at an example. If we look at Paulo's strikeouts, right? The win rate for Paulo over under 3.5 strikeouts, it's not 50% for the over and 50% for the under, right? So PrizePicks prices it like your payout doesn't change depending on if you select the over or the under, which kind of implies that it doesn't matter if you select the over or the under, according to PrizePicks. Now, that's completely different than sportsbooks, right? Where here's a pick that I found on the OddsJam low holds page, and you can see they're heavily juicing. FanDuel is a more efficient betting market, right? One of the biggest sportsbooks in the US. They're heavily juicing Paulo under 3.5 strikeouts. They have this at minus 164, and they're giving you plus 128 on Paulo over 3.5 strikeouts, right? So essentially, if we created like a, two-pick entry on FanDuel, which is just a two-leg parlay, this is kind of the difference. If we used Paulo under 3.5 strikeouts and Noah 5+ strikeouts, we'd be getting plus 143 odds on FanDuel, as you can see kind of right here. Now, if we switch this to Paulo over 3.5 strikeouts, you would be getting plus 245. And the reason is, FanDuel thinks that the over is a lot less likely to hit than the under is. That's why they're heavily juicing the under, right? Sportsbooks imply win probabilities for wagers through their odds. So the fact that, FanDuel has the under heavily juiced means they think it's more likely to hit. So this is the first player prop I'm going to include. And then if you look at this Noah over 4.5 strikeouts, you can see FanDuel is pricing that at minus 194. And we can get this in our PrizePicks entry with a line of 4.5. So I'm using the betting tools on OddsJam. This is the craziest one to find these big line discrepancies between PrizePicks and the sportsbooks. So we can see in the White Sox Twins game, FanDuel has the strikeout line for Michael Kopech set at over under 4.5 strikeouts, minus 106, minus 106. PrizePicks is just casually sitting at 6. So if we actually just go here, you can see they're just casually sitting at 6. That's what they're setting their line at. But FanDuel's setting it at 4.5. So this is a massive difference, right, between over under 4.5 to over under 6. That's a massive difference. So essentially what this means is this under on PrizePicks is an absolute hammer, right? If you can get under 6, like FanDuel is giving you over 5.5 at plus 200 odds. And we can get under 6 at minus 137 on PrizePicks. So we're essentially using data, right? And we're comparing the lines on PrizePicks to lines on the sportsbooks to try to find value. So I have Sandy over 6 strikeouts. That's one of the props I have. You can see FanDuel is pricing his over 6.5, which is even higher at minus 164 odds, right? And they're pricing the over 5.5 at minus 340. So you can kind of assume, for over 6, they would be pricing Sandy over 6 somewhere like, minus 230 or something like that, right? Somewhere in the middle of minus 340 and minus 164. So they're heavily juicing even the over 6.5, and we can get over 6 in our PrizePicks entry. So I bet on this on PrizePicks. I also took Paulo under 3.5 strikeouts, as you can see right here. And then I took Michael Kopech under 6. And this is the best one, right? And all I'm doing is using the various betting tools on OddsJam, the middles tool, the low holds tool, and the positive EV tool to find these line discrepancies on PrizePicks, because we know that PrizePicks is essentially giving us an implied price of roughly minus 137 on any of our player props. Right? Now, you can't just bet on one player prop on PrizePicks. It's not like I can just take this Michael Kopech, under 6 strikeouts and then go bet the over 5.5 strikeouts plus 200 odds on FanDuel. It's not like you can do that. But regardless, you need 2 picks in your PrizePicks entry at the minimum. But regardless, this is a massive line discrepancy, right? This is one of the craziest ones I've actually seen, where one sportsbook is setting the line at 4.5, and then PrizePicks is just casually 1.5 strikeouts higher at over under 6. So I know this is a lot of math, a lot of information, and as always, you can book a call with us. We have links below. We have a bunch of, our only job is to help sports bettors, DFS players. It's why I love my job. And, all of our betting tools, all of the betting tools and things we try to discuss, right, is just based in data. There's no BS, there's no fluff, right? FanDuel literally has the line for Michael Kopech strikeouts set at over under 4.5, and PrizePicks has it at 6. So we know there's a huge gap between FanDuel and PrizePicks, and it's our job to figure out what to do with that information, because clearly there's a good pick. And if you wanted to, you could take the under for Kopech on PrizePicks, right? You could take the under 6 strikeouts, and then you could go bet it over 4.5 on FanDuel, and you're kind of working yourself into a middle. But regardless, so what I ended up going with is kind of a variety of PrizePicks player props for today, with a combination of the 4 pitching strikeout props we discussed. So I have Sandy over 6, Michael under 6, right, which we discussed here. Like when the sports books, which are sharper betting markets, right, FanDuel and PrizePicks are the only 2 operators to have released strikeout lines at this time in the night. But, when sportsbooks are setting the line at 4.5 and then PrizePicks is just casually at over under 6, that's a pretty good indication you want to take the under on PrizePicks. So that's like the first pick I had. Then I had Paulo under 3.5. You can see FanDuel has the under heavily juiced. And then I had Sandy and Noah over 4.5 and over 6. And also, Michael Kopech, this guy in the past month, I think he's had over 6 strikeouts, in his last 10 games once. Granted, 2 of them would have pushed. He had 6 in his last game against the Angels. But regardless, it doesn't even make sense that the line is set at 6. So anyways, you can use kind of data, to find these sharp player props on PrizePicks. And oftentimes we're going to be using the positive EV betting tool, because Pinnacle, the sharpest bookmaker, will have released markets, so we can kind of, identify inefficiencies in the odds. Like, for example, this Luke Voit bet, this tool, this data, data works for DFS, it works for sports betting, it doesn't matter, right? So if we go to Luke Voit, right, you can see here, this is a bet you want to be all over on FanDuel. Right, Luke Voit over 1.5 bases. No other sportsbook is even giving us better than plus 101. Most sportsbooks are pricing this at minus 110, or at least 3 of them are. Some are pricing it at plus 100, and then we can get plus 125 on FanDuel, right? And the sharpest bookmaker in the world, Pinnacle, they're pricing this at plus 101. So we're getting 24 cents of improvement from the sharpest sportsbook, and this is like a very clear pricing discrepancy versus the entire betting market, right? So this gives you an indication that, hey, this plus 125 on FanDuel is a bet you want to be all over. So it's kind of the same thing on PrizePicks. So regardless, we can go through my plays. I have Kopech and Sandy, under for Kopech, over for Sandy. They had some promo, so I took advantage of the promo with Michael Kopech under 6, Tiger Woods over 1.5, birdies are better. Then I have a 4-pick entry, Sandy over, Noah over, Paulo under 3.5 strikeouts, Kopech under 6, right? Kind of all the line discrepancies we discussed. And then all found just with the various betting tools on OddsJam. Again, comment any questions below if you have any. Then I have Paulo under, Kopech under, and then I have Paulo under, Sandy over, Kopech under. So kind of creating various combinations of these 3 profitable line inefficiencies on PrizePicks where they're pricing things very different than the sports books. And then finally, I have Kopech under, Sandy over, Noah over. So it's really 4 player props, right? I'm just like combining them together in different ways because PrizePicks allows different max stakes. So we have Kopech under 6 strikeouts, Sandy over 6 strikeouts, Noah over 4.5 strikeouts, and then Paulo under 3.5 strikeouts. So 4 pitching props. I have a couple $250 flex plays, a couple power plays. I have a 4-pick entry, so this is kind of the long shot, 150 to win 750. And anyways, I hope you found this helpful. I know it's a lot of information, a lot of numbers, a lot of math. Especially if you're new to DFS, new to sports betting. So, in kind of comparing PrizePicks to the sports books maybe isn't particularly intuitive. But regardless, I hope you found it helpful. Any questions you have, don't hesitate to reach out. Let's make money.